How's it going, YouTube? Today in this video we're going to be installing a Procharger kit from BrenSpeed, and I'm going to show you guys exactly the process going through it, as I've not seen any video on YouTube for an 06 Mustang how to install this kit. So if you're like me and you're wanting to do this, let's go ahead and get right into it. This is going to be a video educational purpose only, so make sure to watch the whole series of this before actually trying this yourself, as there may be things that I go through back and change, and I'll tell you in the later videos. So without further ado, let's go and get right into this video. And basically, first off, what you're going to do, take off your intake manifold. And in order to do that, you got to take off, I like how I pointed at the freaking air intake. You're going to take off the air intake, and then you're going to take off this PCV valve over here, and another PCV valve on the other side. And then what you're going to have to do is take off the intake manifold right here. So you'll take that piece off, and we're going to have to, with this kit, you're going to have to drill a hole into one of these intake runners and put a intake air and temp sensor, so that we can now pull, instead of pulling it from this mass airflow sensor, we're now going to pull the air intake temperature from the manifold. Alrighty, y'all, so first time ever using this little device that I have around my neck, but you know, it gives you a point of view of what I'm doing, so hopefully that way you guys can see a better layout of what to do. So we'll go ahead and take off this PCV valve here. We're just going to put it off to the side somewhere. We'll just put it over there. And then we're going to take off this one over here. And to do this one, hopefully you guys can see it, we'll start with the outermost one over here first. Get on this side. That way you guys can hopefully see it better. Nope, pushed it back in. There we go, start like that, and then we'll push this in and get that to come out like that. Then next, we gotta take off this little guy, which you just push that down and pull out. And then we're gonna take this and unplug that. With these injector clips, what I like to do before taking these off, just because they get really brittle, is I'll spray into here with WD-40 on every single one, and then I can usually get it to come out. So real quick, I'm gonna go ahead and get some WD-40, and we'll be right back within a snap. Alrighty, y'all, got some WD-40 here. So we'll go ahead and start getting these little sprayed down a little bit. I just spray it down right in here where the clip is. And it does not take that much at all. You just gotta spray each one like that. That one's broke. This one's broke, so I could just literally bloop, pull it right out. But I usually push it in a little bit, and then gently, ever so slightly, push down on the release for it, and then pull up. Sometimes I'll even use both hands so that I can pull the connector while slightly pushing on it. You just want to take your time with it too. No sense in rushing to break these, because like I said, this one I'm going to have to end up fixing, since the piece that latches onto the injector is broken off. Same thing over here. Push down, there we go. So now that all the injectors are unplugged, we can take this piece out. It's just a vacuum hose. This is actually probably where I'm going to end up running my boost tap. I believe actually in the manual that Brenspeed sends, it says to tap into this one, but I think this is what we are going to tap into, is this one. So we're just going to probably later on throughout the video cut in between here, and then this will have my T in the middle. It'll have my boost gauge going over down through wherever I decide to run it through. up to my gauge. And then I don't know, y'all. Yeah, we'll come back to that later when it comes down later to it. But for now, let's keep chugging along, getting this intake manifold out. So this fuel piece right here is just a clip. So we'll take this clip out, and then you're also going to need a special tool to release this one, which I'll show you here in a sec. Alrighty guys, so I got the tool over here. Now I have a Matco version, but you can get these on Amazon too. It looks like a pack like this, usually. Different sizes, but usually this is what you do with it. So you'll take the size that fits. For me, it was the green one. And it just slides right over, right? You just kind of spread it apart and it slides right over. And then you'll kind of just push this into here to get it out. So let's go ahead and try and do that. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing. There we go. So we'll just kind of push this in and then push this piece in too. And then we can pull this fill piece out. And you're just getting it off of this ridge right here. I don't know if you can see it or not. And then once you do that, you can pull it out. So there's the fuel tube. The fuel tube is off. And now we can just let that off to the side. Do not turn your key on when that is disconnected. I recommend disconnecting your battery before doing any of this first, just to aid on the side of caution, because as soon as you have that unplugged and you do your key on, that's going to spit fuel everywhere. So don't do that. We'll go ahead and start taking this piece off. There's this connector. Take the mass airflow sensor connector off. And we'll start taking the intake or the air filter stuff off. This one's really easy because it's not really installed how it should be. Now that we got this off, basically what we can do, or what we're going to have to do, we're going to have to relocate the power steering reservoir. It gives us a kit to do that. So instead of it being right here, we're going to move it all the way over to this area right here, right in front of the PCM. That way the whole thing will be right here. This is going to be a really tight fit, and you'll see what I mean once we get there. But first things first, let's take out this piece and this piece, and that should be it. We should be able to get away with just that. And then over here, I don't think there's anything else besides the intake runner control valve that's in the back of the intake manifold. There's this connector for the throttle body. We'll take that off. We'll take those out. And just to, okay, that one goes over here, just to keep track of all these bolts, we're just gonna put these all back in the same spot, a couple threads on there. So we're gonna grab our 8mm, put this piece back in my tool bag there, and put these bolts back into here so that, once again, keep track of our bolts. And just move this hose down. And just so this doesn't get lost, slide off easily, we're going to do that. Just twist the hose right off, and all that coolant's gonna go everywhere. So get ready for that. And we're gonna take this out and start flowing even better. So first things first, we're going to take off the injectors, which the kit does come with 47-pound injectors. So we are going to be changing those out as well, and I'll show you how to do that in this video, actually, I guess, too. So then what we're going to do, we're going to take a pry bar with these. Just be careful, because you can make it to where you're going to pull out the rail and the injector will stay in the intake manifold. To help with this process, I do like to put a little bit of WD-40 around the injectors where they meet the intake. Just kind of helps lubricate them. And if you're wanting to reuse the seals, if you were to reuse the same injectors, it helps with that too. Although I do highly recommend replacing the O-rings whenever you take out the injectors. Just because you're dealing with fuel, and you know how rubber gaskets are over time. So there's that. Anyway, we'll just stick the pry bar kind of right here in the middle, right there. And I'm going to give it a little bit of a help here, but we're just using this to barely pry up on it because it's not going to take much. So first off, we're just going to rock this side to side, kind of let the WD-40 get in there and help with aiding the removal of this. Let's see if I can get it with just doing this though. Yep, there we go. Okay. So there's one side. And now we gotta do the passenger side. Same process, just kind of wiggle it back and forth. And then we're going to use the pry bar to help give us some leverage here. And help pry this up. And then get this to come out. There we go. There we go. Now we can just take your fuel rail right out and set it apart over here somewhere. Alrighty, on with the rest of it. So we're gonna grab our electric ratchet, and they're gonna be 10 mils all the way around. And we're gonna just kind of give it a good little, yeah, we're good. Just a little bit of a persuasion here, and that'll break the seal. And then we can take this out, hopefully. So yeah. And forward, just a tad, to get to the connector that's back here. There's a little plastic piece that slides, I don't know if you can see it, on the back of this right here. You can just take it off, or use a trim tool and pop this off too, right here. And then you can get easier access to take this out. And I think, oh, that's right, there's a vacuum hose back here that we're also gonna have to take off. Alrighty guys, we're back. We got some long needle nose pliers here. And we're just gonna slide those in there and pull that out. So much easier. So now we can just take this vacuum hose and just kind of put it off to the side, and we can take our intake out fully now. Here we go. I don't think, okay, these will fall out. So take out all your intake manifold bolts before flipping it over all the way so that you don't lose them. That's a good tip. This will be on the passenger side, so this is the side that we're going to have to drill into, and I'll show you in the book. It says it likes to be right here and right on the passenger side, bank 1, as bank 2 is always on the driver's side on the Ford, to drill the hole right here, and this is where your intake air temp sensor is going to end up now being. Alrighty guys, so we have the paper towels that we're going to help stash into there to help with collecting all that shit. And I'm basically just going to stuff it down in there, but before I do that, we're going to read this real quick and just kind of double check. So, Brenspeeds, can you see that? Maybe. Brenspeeds IAT relocation kit. So, remove intake, mark runner, we prefer passenger side, second runner back from the front. So to me, passenger side, right, that's what we're on. Runner, back, second runner from the back, or sorry, second runner from the front. So this is the front because the front has your, you know, throttle body. Couldn't come up with the word there. 1, 2, right there. So that's what we're going to end up doing. And we're going to drill and tap. When you drill and tap, the intake plastic will fall down into the runner to prevent plastic from falling into the intake. Stuff a rag deep into the runner. So, this is going to end up getting wet. That's what we're going to do. We're going to start with this one. So, we're just going to stuff a rag deep down in here. Now, it ain't going to catch all of the plastic that we drill into here, so just keep that in mind. I'll show you guys what we're going to end up doing here. So basically, Brenspeed sends you Ford parts, which is what I really like. So we're using a Motorcraft sensor, so you don't have to worry about, you know, all aftermarket. OEM, this is what I like to see. This is also an OEM pigtail that they send with you in the kit. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the sensor out, right? Put that over there in case I ever need to get one of these again, because, you know, sensors go bad. And what I'm going to do is just kind of mock up where this is going to go. So we don't want it, you know, all the way down here where you can't get this pigtail to plug into the sensor. So we want this in a general location of where it's going to be easy to get this to be unplugged and plugged back in without messing up anything. So then this is how big of a hole that we got to drill. You need a 1/2-inch drill. And this is how big we got to drill a freaking hole into, right? Because it's got to fit this humble jamba in there. Now, when you're doing drilling, especially with plastic, do not start with the highest size you need. Start slow and work up. So we're just going to get this for reference so that we can be like, okay, you know, we don't need this piece. We're going to start real slow. We're going to start with just a 9/32, and even then, this is kind of big. So just because I don't want to ruin my intake manifold here, even though we pretty much are, we're going to start with a 1564 and start with that and work all the way up. Now, again, this is just a really pain in the ass because if you don't do it right the first time, you're going to be fucked. So make sure you do it correctly. Smaller, we'll go 1164. All right, there's now a hole in my intake manifold. So now from 1164, I'm going to work up back to my 1564. So nerve-wracking. So we're at 1564. We're going to work up to a 9/32 now. From a 9/32, we're going to work up to a 2164. 2164, we're going to work up to now. See, what I gotta think is like, this looks like a 1/2 inch or whatever this is. Yeah, 1/2. This is what that looks like. This might be a little bit bigger though, actually. So we'll just keep test fitting this until we feel comfortable enough. How are we looking though? Is this looking good with this? Oh yeah. So now it has enough to fit that little piece in there, and then this has enough space to be where it's at. So I think we should be good, hopefully. Here we go. Alrighty, folks. Now we got the 1/2 inch drill, and we're gonna drill the rest of this right here. But in order to get the perfect angle, I'm gonna take out this other runner right here, just so I can kind of get this to lay a little bit more flush and get the angle of this that I want. That way it's not cockeyed. Alright guys, so real quick, I went ahead and drilled it with this. So as you can see, it is drilled. And we're gonna go ahead and put this off to the side. Put this back in here. We're gonna need the tap now. The drill bit can go back into there. And we can start with this process now, getting this to go into here. And start turning it by hand. And getting this to where we can now tap this. Ideally, y'all, I would say if you guys are doing this, go just a little bit above the lettering there. You gotta keep in mind also that the lettering is not going to be the same on every intake manifold, so it's a guessing game. It really is. But I think I should have went up just a little bit more. But we should be able to get it.